Okay, thank you. Then once again, welcome to the session, to the hashtag Remote Ready webinar series. Today's webinar will be about learning from digital nomads, and I'm really stoked to welcome 4 speakers from all over the world. And yeah, I would love to jump right in. So everyone is maybe already on the concept board. You can either see it from that screen, where I will do some moderation, so you will follow my screen automatically. 1 second. Or you can just follow my screen share, so whatever you prefer. If you're annoyed by all the mouse cursors that are on the board running around, you can simply turn them off here. Sorry, my interface is in German right now, but it would be uncheck mouse cursors for you, so you can just turn them off and then it will look like that. All right, so what we're going to do today is we will have the session in a concept board, and we will create a living document out of this entire board, which means it will be updated in real time. We will have 2 of my fabulous colleagues, Isabella and Anya, joining on the board and adding all the information that you need at the time. So in the end, if you feel like you missed something or whatever, you can always come back to the board and see what happened and also what was talked about in this session. All right, so here is the overview of all of our speakers. And I would start right away with Tolan and ask you please to introduce yourself to us. Oh, Antonella, I think there's some background sound in
there is some background sound.
Can everyone mute themselves, please, so we don't have any background sound?
In the bottom left of Zoom. Perfect. Hi, my name is Tolan Druckmüller. I'm an interaction and interface designer. Back in 2017, I was still full-time employed back in Germany. And then I realized I could do my job from wherever I want. So I quit my job, I became a freelancer, and I packed all my stuff. And now I spent most of the year in Bali, Indonesia.
Perfect. Okay. Then do you want to say something more about yourself, or that's it?
Do I have to say more about myself?
No, you don't have to. Just
I've been working with concepts.
That's fine. Okay. All right, then we move on. Thank you, Tolan. Josefine, or Josie. It's okay to say Josie, that's easier for everyone.
It's fine, yeah, that's what most people say. Yes, hello everyone. Good evening from Australia. My name is Josie. I come originally from Berlin, Germany. And I started traveling back in, like, I think it was November 2018, so not even such a long time ago. And before that, I was working in recruiting HR. I've been working in recruiting for like 4 years now after I finished university. And yeah, after I started traveling in 2018, I traveled Asia, like Thailand, Bali, etc. And just there's a great nomad community in Canggu, Bali, which really convinced me to stay. So I also quit my job back in Germany. I worked for a pretty big company in Germany, Deutsche Bahn. I guess a lot of people know that company. Quit my job, left my apartment and everything behind and moved to Canggu. And yes, now I work still actually in Berlin, but I'm not really working in Berlin, but I'm 100% employed. I don't work as a freelancer. I work for a small recruiting agency, which is called Cuckoo Recruiting Partners Berlin in Berlin Ostkreuz. And we have like a small team of 15 people, and we support different companies in recruiting, like as interim and freelance recruiters. We support companies, especially startups. Yeah, different jobs like looking for candidates, but also like support them with different recruiting processes. And yeah, I'm leading a small team of 2 people, take care of them and see how I can make them happy. And it's quite fun. Yeah, I've lived in Bali most of the time, but yeah, I traveled to Australia like only like 2.5 weeks ago, but due to the current situation, I needed to stay here in Australia, East Gold Coast, not East Coast, Gold Coast, same thing. Yeah, we'll see how long I will be here, but yeah, that's
Sounds
about it.
good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josie. All right, then we'll move on to our next speaker. Adnan, can you introduce yourself as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this meeting. So thank you that you made it. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Adnan. So I'm Belgian, like it was explained in the summary. So I also have Tunisian roots. So the good thing is that I kind of like started travel at a very young age. By the age of 5, I was already taking like my parents crazy enough to send me all alone to Tunisia every summer. And yeah, so yeah, like the thing is that I used to always see some people working in the planes or even in airports, and it was like fascinating for me. I was like, oh, that's awesome. Those guys are just traveling the world and working. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to be once I'll be grown. Yeah, so once I got graduated here in marketing, I was working for 5 years at the European Commission and European Parliament here in Belgium. And yeah, like as soon as I got graduated, I got like a pretty interesting position into the European Commission, but I quickly left it. I mean, like I literally just declined it because like after 5 years, I was just talking to so many people working there for already like 20 or even like 40 years, even though like it seemed like in terms of money, they're making like good amount of money, etc. But that wasn't what I was really looking for at the end of the day. So I was mainly searching for the quality of life, and I didn't want to yeah, like just exchanging, let's say, like a month of vacation for 11 other months. So what I did is that I packed everything. I packed all my stuffs, and I went straight to Gran Canaria, so one of the Canarian islands, and that's where the journey started. So I met my girlfriend there. And yeah, so the thing is that I was already fluent in 3 other languages, so like English, French, and Arabic, and a bit of Dutch. But I quickly realized that there, if you don't speak the local language, they literally don't care about any other one. So I had like to learn Spanish, and then I quickly ended up working for a co-working space, and that was like literally like the best thing that could have ever happened, because I was just surrounded by people who are actually digital nomads working from all around the world, and they're just like going all around the world and looking for co-working space where they could also meet some like-minded people. And yes, I was working that first from the office, then remotely, and I ended up also working as a community manager, so as a freelancer, and then also as a contractor and consultant in the crypto industry, so for some big exchanges. So yeah, that's it for me.
Wow, thanks a lot. Amazing bios here going around. Really impressive. All right, then last but not least, Ivan, would you also please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. First of all, just wanted to thank Concept Board for the invite. I also want to thank everybody for joining. It's really nice and humbling that you want to hear what we have to say. I'll give you a short info about myself. For almost 3 years, I worked for a Silicon Valley startup that was backed by Y Combinator. And during that time, I wore multiple hats, mentoring, account management, development of new products. But the majority of my time was focused on creative project management and being a team lead. At my peak, I was in charge of 10 teams that were corresponding to 10 very large corporate clients, and each team consisted anywhere between 3 to 8 specialists and managers. And the interesting thing about my work at the time was that it required basically 24/7 availability. It's you needed to work when clients needed work done. It wasn't like office hours 9 to 5. It's pretty much when they needed you to be around. And that was sort of the drawback of it, because it was very long hours. Pulling all-nighters was very common, but the positive side of that was the fact that you could pretty much work from everywhere, because the clients were also located all over the globe, and the teams as well, to provide 24/7 support. The nature of the job was premium outsourcing on demand for business and creative tasks, which included anywhere between graphic design, web design, content writing, research, motion graphics design, etc., etc. And I was the one who was in charge of basically managing the projects A to Z. It included budgeting, it included time management, quality control, etc., etc. So we can go into more details down the line if any of you are interested in this. But before I close, I would also like to share the other side of me, which is the more creative side. I also graduated from 4 music schools. That describes me way better than project management. Very passionate about music, about composing, and of course travel, because during my digital nomad career, I was able to live in 4 countries and to travel to almost 50. If any of you read the intros that were announced, I like that music over there. Cool. If any of you read the intros, my latest stint was 14 months in Central and South America, which was absolutely the best time of my life. And during that time, I was, of course, working and managing all of these teams. So without getting into too many details and taking up a lot of time, that's the short intro, and then we can expand on it down the line. And thanks again for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's so interesting. And I'm really happy that we will cover more of this in this 1.5 hours. So just to get a quick overview, what we're going to do today. So this is today's agenda, and we will start off like with some advantages or challenges of remote work or digital nomading in general. Then we will dive into social and work life. So how does this actually work out together in a paradise, let's say, because most of the people will probably be traveling around like paradisey beaches and just places where everyone wants to go. But how do you cope with that? Then we will have a quick overview about the tools that they use for working remotely, that they can recommend or that they say, no, doesn't work at all. Then maybe some of you might wonder, how can you actually motivate yourself in such a place where everyone else is just having holidays? And in the end, we will talk about the communication in general. So how do they communicate with their distributed team, if they have a distributed team, or how else will they communicate with people around the world that they want to contact? And then in the end, we will have probably half an hour, an open forum with a Q&A. So everyone that wants to participate in that, I would ask you to join the board. I mean, that's still possible later on, and I will also post the link again in the chat. And then everyone can just grab a Post-it note and add some questions. So I would ask you guys to just keep your questions to the end. If you have to leave earlier, don't worry. You can also ask always in the chat, and I will try to incorporate that into my questions that I'm asking anyhow. Yeah, but that's it. So if there's no questions as for now, I would jump right in.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, so we will start with the advantages. As you can see here, I already added sticky notes in each color. So this purple is Tolan, this turquoise is Josephine, then we have this nice blue for Adnan, and the dark blue for Ivan. And every time someone is saying something, Isabella or Anya will just add everything in there. So just for you to know in the end who said what. Usually sticky notes and concept board are just anonymous, but like this we try to keep an overview of who said what, and yeah, that's actually it. All right, so I would start off with the first question, talking about the advantages. So what, in your opinion, would be the biggest advantage of working remotely instead of saying, okay, I go to the office every day? I would say just feel free to go ahead, anyone.
For me, definitely one of the biggest advantages that I was able to plan the day the way that I wanted to. Like I didn't really have to wake up in the morning and go to the office, and I'm not a morning person anyway. So like I go slowly into the day, wake up, do some exercise, go to the beach. I hang out at the beach for a long time in the morning and have some coffee and then start working in the afternoon. And for me, it was more like I can work when I feel like it, when I'm really productive, when I'm creative and have the inspiration to. And that also made me much more productive and while I was working. So I think this was one of the biggest advantages that I saw. I also felt like, I don't know, in Germany it was a lot about going to the office from 9 to 5, and there's like, I felt like it was a social pressure. You don't really feel it while you're doing it, but if you get out of it, then you realize people expect you to do things the way that this community or everyone else does it.
Okay, wow, thank you. How do the others feel about that?
For me, it's like, and I can talk about that later, but I don't have that flexibility that Tolan has, so it's not the same for everyone. For me, like the biggest advantage is just that I can choose the place where I want to live. I mean, that's pretty obvious, but that's like my biggest advantage. I don't have to choose a place. I mean, I liked it in Bali a lot, but if I wouldn't like it anymore, I'm just able to move to Thailand or Vietnam or Australia or whatever. So I'm in Australia now and I can still work. So it doesn't really matter where I am, and that gives me a lot of freedom. And yeah, it's just such a great feeling. Of course, I feel like I want to settle at some point in life, but I'm not sure if I've found my place yet. It's definitely not Germany, I'm pretty sure. Just, yeah, for me, that's definitely the biggest advantage. There's some others, but yeah, maybe someone else want to go ahead.
Now I have a quick question to what you said.
Sure.
It's definitely not Germany. What's so bad about Germany? That's what I want to know.
It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I love Germany. It's just like, so every time when I go back, like if I go, for example, I went back for Christmas holidays, that was like completely fine. But last year I needed to go back for a couple months because I needed to figure out my job situation. It was a little bit uncertain, etc. And just for me, I didn't feel like I didn't fit anymore. I could say, like as what Tolan just said, there's like this 9 to 5 schedule everyone does, and there's also a lot of like expectations how you should like how you should live your life, right? And what's like, okay, by the age of turning 30 you have to have children and buy a house and stuff. And the community, if you work remotely, that's one of the other advantages. The remote community is just very different. Like people are open-minded, and there is not a specific schedule that you have to follow with your life, right? It's like, and yeah, it's just very interesting to meet all those people. It's very international. And yeah, I feel like when I'm back in Germany, it's a little bit different in Berlin because there's an international community as well, but I'm personally not a big fan of big cities. So but if I go to other places like in the countryside, for example, where I come from, it's yeah, I don't know, I cannot handle it anymore. It's not that it's bad, it's like it's nice to be home, right? But yeah, after a couple of weeks I need to go out. Yeah, I cannot imagine. Maybe at some point in life, I'm not sure, but I have the flexibility to choose, and this is the great thing.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Great, Josie. It's funny, like I had the feeling to hear my girlfriend. She's from Munich and she has the exact same speech basically about Germany. She loves Germany, but yeah, we personally don't see ourselves living there because she's German, I'm Belgian, and I'm not like staying in Belgium either. Right now I'm in Belgium, so it's great to visit family and so on. but to settle down here, it's just like literally impossible for me. I mean, let's face it, like we already spent like probably like 1/4 of our life here. There is a lot to discover. And so yeah, now to just to answer the questions, like for me there were like many like three things, or can be like summarized in two. So it's like the freedom of working like for yourself, whether like as a freelancer or as a consultant, and mainly the fact that you can work from anywhere in the world. So so the thing is that how can I say that? At the end of the day, we can. I don't mind working. The only thing is that I don't want to be stuck in a job that I don't especially like, and I'm always looking forward to go like on vacation. And the good thing with working remotely as a freelancer or a consultant is that you can work from wherever you want. So basically, every single day off that you have, you're on vacation. So you can choose a destination when they are like pretty cheap, where like the cost of life is pretty low comparing to central of Europe. And like Bali is one place. Gran Canaria, as I mentioned earlier, where I spent like almost 2 years there, was like pretty much the same. So basically for 800 euro, you can have like a decent flat. You can go out like time to times and you can like live pretty well. So, and we're still in Europe. That's like the main advantage. Now the other one is that, as like the previous people said as well, is that you're not stuck to a 9 to 5. However, on the other hand, when you're mainly starting, you actually end up working way more than like an usual employee where, okay, I'm just going to the office from 8, at 5, I'm out, I'm not working anymore, I'm done. Usually when you're working as a freelancer, it's like a non-stop process of working. Even if you're not like behind your screen or not meeting people, most of the time you keep on thinking on whether like the business idea that you have at the moment or any new idea that came into your mind, and yeah, so that's all the things, I guess. That's it.
Yeah, just to add on and echo what other guys said as well. I would also probably highlight 3 points. The first one being flexibility. In regards to mostly controlling your time, of course, it's going to depend whether you're a freelancer, whether you are a contractor, whether you're fully employed, but that flexibility and being your own boss in a way and controlling your time is one of the biggest advantages. Of course, echoing what Adnan said, being able to work from wherever you want. For me, when I was working in an office, it felt like a prison. So just being able to move around and choose whether you're going to work from home or work from a cafe or work from a co-working space, or oftentimes even in the weirdest of places on a bus or something like that if you need to get something done, or you can also work on your phone while you're commuting, etc., etc. That's a huge advantage for me. And one last thing that I didn't think we mentioned is being able to work with multiple nationalities. At least that was in my case, because if you're working in an office, depending on which country you're in, the majority of the people working there will be of that nationality. And you can be working for a multinational company, but still the majority of the people are going to be somewhat similar and alike. But when you're working remotely, and especially when you're working across multiple time zones, you get to work with other cultures, different nationalities, and just grow and expand socially that way as well. So I would close with that.
I also have to add one more thing. There is about the time zones. I was able to use the different time zones. Me sitting here in Bali and other people sitting back in Germany, when we were on a project that was like really narrow in time, that we were able to, like, I started working while Germany was still sleeping, and then when I around noon, I told people in Germany what they have to do, or what I need from them, and they get it early in the morning when they wake up, and they know what they have to do. They can start working on it, and then work until like I'm in bed. So that is also, that can be a great advantage at the same time. Simone, you're muted.
You're muted.
I don't know how this happened, but I didn't mute myself. Someone muted me. Okay, I just wanted to say I totally agree to that, Tolan. For everyone, I'm also working with Tolan. So she's working for 2 companies, but one of them is Consupport. And that's right? It's 2 companies. Not that
Yeah, it's a bit
it's more, okay. So she's working for multiple companies, so let's say like that. And one of them is Consupport. And as soon as you're giving Tolan something, then you know it's there the next morning, and that's just amazing. You just say, "Oh shit, the day is over. It's already 7. Can I give this to someone?" And yeah, I can give this to Tolan, and then it's totally ready the next morning, and that's really a big advantage. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I like the feeling also of being ahead of my coworkers. If I have to finish something in the morning or whatever, I'm always the first person. So I'm always like waiting. When you come to that office, I'm waiting here. Can we have the meeting early in the morning? And people are like so impressed. Like if I open up my calendar for people to book in for interviews, and it's like, oh, that's pretty cool that you're so flexible and we can have an interview before my work starts at 6 in the morning. It was like, yeah, no worries. That's cool. And, yeah, it's very funny sometimes.
Really cool. Okay. We have a lot of advantages collected here, but there's also another side. So maybe let's see, we will move on to the challenges. So who wants to tell us about the biggest challenges of remote work? Who wants to start?
I can go ahead this time. So I would say like many at the beginning is whether to find a company to work remotely or to find clients. At the very beginning, it's really frustrating when you don't know like where to start and so on. So and on the other hand, it's also like the self-discipline that it takes, because as we said, it has a lot of advantages. So obviously you don't have to wake up that early if you're not like a morning person or whatever, but like it takes like a lot of self-discipline to be like, okay, no matter what, the job has to be done. Otherwise I would just like lose that contract or lose that client. So so this is like also another thing which is like not specifically like natural to everybody. Many when you're used to work for like a company for many years, so this takes also a lot of energy at the beginning. And one of the most important thing is actually to keep it up even like during the hardest time. So you will see sometimes where like there'll be like a big down, like almost no clients, almost no work, etc. And yeah, just like to keep up many like during this time and not giving up. So keep on like looking for new clients, and but as long as you make like a great job, because at the end of the day, like your name is like kind of like your company, your image. And if you make like a good impression on the project that you have already like been working on, when people like need to hire any other person, like you'll be like at the first place in their mind. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to add on this?
I can jump in if you want. I will add a challenge that's more on the social side. There are pros and cons to every situation, but when you're working in an office, you can actually go to a lunch break with somebody. You can actually go to a coffee break with somebody. Then you can go home with somebody, stuff like that. When you're working remotely, that's not the case, and especially if you're working for a bigger company, where in my case there were more than 100 of us, and a lot of the people are actually very good friends, but they're virtual. So a lot of these people I would prefer to go and take a coffee break with and go have lunch with, but in many cases I wasn't able. Luckily I was able to meet some of them while I was traveling around and work from coffee shops together and whatnot, but that social part might be a challenge because the people you work with, you actually get to know very well, and you would like to spend more time with them, but oftentimes you are several time zones away.
Yeah, thank you. Very important part, social life. Yeah, we will get into that at a later point as well. Thank you.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. I would call it isolation. I would have called it isolation before the Corona thing happened. That stuff. But like I was able before, when I was working in the office, I was able to just go to the coffee machine, make a coffee, and like talk to people at the coffee machine, and also to like-minded people that do kind of like the same job or are in the same project, so that you can just leave all your stuff with that person and he would understand or she would understand. But if you're traveling or living abroad, you need to find those kind of people that do the same job, and that's not too many, to be honest.
Okay, yeah, I see that too. Especially if you're living in a really small place. How big is the place that you live in, Torland?
You mean the city?
Yeah.
Canggu is pretty small. I have no idea how small it is, but it is.
There's lots of people.
A few thousand people. I don't know.
I don't even know.
Okay. And is it mostly like foreigners, or is there also a lot of Balinese people?
There's a really big expat community. There's so many digital nomads. I think Canggu is the second city in Bali with a co-working space. So like in the last couple of years, it got like a big boom and everyone moved to Canggu. Everyone wanted to be here.
Okay. And do you also see that in prices then? Like, do prices rise from that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
They raise like crazy. We were talking about it like before the Corona crisis happened. My friend lost her villa because it went from 100 million to 200 million, like doubled the price of it.
Wow.
No, I think it was even 300. So
Rupee,
it's like,
yeah, you have to add rupee, not euro.
right. But like 3 times from one day to another.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's like the thing, like you have to choose the place where you live wisely, because if you don't choose it wisely, it can be very lonely, right? If there's lots of places, like I heard, oh, LA would be cool to go to, but they don't have a cool nomad community or expert community, and they don't have like good co-works and stuff, or it's super expensive. So there's like a lot of things you should consider before you move to a nomad place. So that's the reason I think where there are some places who are especially recommended for nomads, like Chiang Mai in Thailand, or Canggu in Bali, or Medellin in Colombia, or Berlin was cool, I think a couple of years ago. Now everyone wants to move to Portugal, right? So there's like some places nomads are talking about, that's a cool spot, you should go. Or what's another one? Puerto Escondido in Mexico. And then this place experiences, like Roland said, kind of a boom, which is good, but can be like, of course, prices are increasing, and then nomads feel like, oh, this is too expensive now. Well, we should go to another place, right? And then they're talking about a new place. I feel like that's kind of what's going on. But just like come back to the challenges for me, is a challenge specifically is the time zones, because I have a team and my team is in Germany, so I try to match their working hours. It doesn't have to be exactly, but I do have a lot of appointments and interviews, and I call a lot. So for me, it doesn't really make sense to start early in the morning, because it's just, I would have to work at night anyway. So I basically start at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon usually, and would work like in Bali times, would work to like 10, 11 in the evening. Now I'm in Australia, so I'm 10 hours ahead, which means I can work until like 2, 3 in the morning, right? So as you can see, it's already dark. So that's my normal working day. So to work at night, I think it's not for everyone. So I also have people like from the US who lived in Bali. They had meetings at 4 in the morning, so they would like set an alarm at 3 in the morning, which can be very exhausting. And they had such a bad sleep routine. They were like constantly tired, right? So you have to really choose, okay, which time zone I want to work in, where's my team, where are my clients, can be definitely a big challenge.
Okay, yeah, I see that, especially with your team. But how do you make sure you keep your team motivated like that?
How I keep my I mean, as I said, I match German work hours, so I'm always available. So they have always the opportunity to talk to me. I mean, I'm not available until like 7 in the evening Germany times, but usually until like 3-4 p.m. in the afternoon. So I try them to get in the office early in the morning, and we talk a lot. I mean, that's communication part, but we talk almost every day. We have a lot of video calls, and I don't feel separated from my team. It's weird. Like most of my coworkers work in the office, but I feel very connected because we talk a lot. We also have a virtual office. We can talk about it later. So yeah, I think it's just like you have to be a good example that you're also working, that you're motivated, that you're actually doing something, right? And if they can see that, they learn from you being a good role model. So I try to be that. And it's like, yeah, it's 11:30. Okay, I don't care. Let's do it.
Perfect. So as you're mentioning right now, you said you have to tell them that you're working. So do you have the feeling that people have the perception that you are actually not working because you are a digital nomad?
No, not right now. Like when I started doing that, of course you have to prove it a little bit in the beginning. Like you have to show your boss, okay, maybe you have to bring some better results. I'm actually one of the most productive workers in my company. Which might be surprising because you feel like a little bit, okay, I have to prove that I'm actually doing a good job here because you don't want to lose that advantage of working remotely. So, and I also know like there's a lot of trust, right? There's a big credit because I only worked for that company for like 4 weeks and then I moved back to Bali, which is not a lot. And so I feel like I don't have to prove it, but I want to, yeah, I'm just very grateful and I want to give it back, and I just don't want to lose that, right? So I have to do a good job here.
That sounds fantastic. Everyone would love to work with you, I think.
Thank you.
I do feel a bit like I have to prove it. Like I feel like the advantages of being wherever I want, I do want to show my clients that I'm reliable, that they can count on me, that I'm always available to answer. So yeah, sometimes it happens to me that I'm out in a restaurant with friends, but I'm still like looking at my phone and checking if I get any messages or stuff.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I think we will get to that in the next part as well. Let me just quickly wait until Anya and Isabella stopped. Oh no, you can still continue, and I will move to the next part. So the next section is actually social and work life in a nomadic setup, which is pretty interesting, I would say. Yeah, what would be my first question is like being in paradise or being in somewhere where people are actually doing their holidays. How do you actually cope with the fact that everyone that is around you, if they're not working or if they're not a digital nomad as well, is being on holidays and just chilling? How do you cope with that?
Can I say something quickly? I think we don't really hang out with tourists. Mm-hmm. So people we hang out with are also working. Like if you stay at a place a couple of months, you don't want to meet someone who only stays there for a couple of days or for a week or two. It's just not worth it to invest that time and to start a conversation again. Oh, for how long have you been in Bali for? What are you doing? Whatever. So you get a bit bored or sick of it. I wouldn't say like we're not talking to them. Of course we're talking to tourists, like, but most of my friends are nomads as well, and they're all working and they're not partying during the week. They're not, I don't know, having pina coladas at the beach at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So everyone, right? So that's not really hard because you just hang out with your group of nomads, and everyone is just working. So it's not a big deal. Not at all, actually.
Okay, so do you mostly have these kind of friends, or is there also a connection to locals, for example?
Depends on the place, I guess, where you stay. In Bali, Indonesia, I know a lot of Indonesian people, but we're not super close friends, but they're also working, right? They have a job, I don't know, work at a reception or in a restaurant or whatever. So I don't know, there's not many people. You have to choose your people wisely. If you hang out with people who start drinking beers at 2 p.m. at the pool, of course they exist, right? But yeah, you just have to choose with who do you hang out with. So if you choose a bad influence, you're not going to get any work done, for sure. I also like to work in co-working places, spaces, whatever. That's really motivates me, like to go to a place to work. I personally don't like to work from home. I guess it's different for everyone. So I like to go into my co-working space. There's other people working. You can have a chat. You can have a coffee, as we said. I mean, we all have different jobs, but there's still like a social life. It's like kind of an office, right? So that's for me the perfect setup. So I would always choose a place where I can find a good co-working place. I'm also pretty lucky because my company pays for that.
Perfect.
For some people, it's too expensive to afford a co-work because they can be very pricey.
Yeah, that's true. Any other opinions on that?
Yeah, if I can add, I think there's a big difference between if you're staying at some place for longer. So if you live in Bali for an extended periods of time, or if you live somewhere else for an extended period, or if you're moving more frequently, either weekly or bi-weekly. I do agree with Joe. It's usually the first question when you meet people is how long are you staying here, or how long are you here for? And after that question and after that answer, you know whether to engage or not, whether it's worth your time. Because if somebody replies, oh, I'm here on holiday only for a week, there's like, okay, whatever. But usually if you figure out that somebody you're meeting is also a digital nomad, or that they're traveling for an extended period of time, that's when you have topics and other things in common. That's how you start communicating more with people, also with locals, but it depends on the location and on the situation. And if not, it's usually self-discipline. If there aren't your people from your tribe where you're at right now, it's just solitude and focus on getting work done. So.
Totally. Ivan, I have one question. So you mentioned like if they're staying for 1 week, for example, you would probably not like engage with them so much. So how long do you usually stay at one place, or what's your recommended time to stay in one place if you're traveling? I mean, I see that Tolan, for example, you're living now in Bali. Also, Josephine, you have been living in Bali, and now you're for a longer time in Australia and so on. But I think for Adnan and you, it was a bit different, right? You were more traveling, or maybe I got this wrong, but maybe you can just tell me what's the shortest period you have been in one place, and what would you recommend others?
Yeah, that's a great question. And again, it definitely varies. So during my time being a digital nomad, I lived in Los Angeles for a year. I've traveled for a couple of months or a couple of weeks at a time throughout Europe. And as I mentioned, my latest stint in Central and South America was for 14 months. And it depends on the place. When I plan my travels, I prefer not to be tied down with the booked flights in advance or booked hotel rooms, Airbnbs in advance. That freedom of choice is what helps you. So if you don't like a certain place that you're visiting, and if you just wake up tomorrow and decide to leave, you can. You're not bogged down by having a booked flight or a booked hotel room. Other times, if I really like a place, I also want to have that freedom to extend my stay. So during my 14-month travel stint, I would say that the shortest I stay in one place was only a couple of days, maybe like 2-3 days. Whereas the longest was probably a month and a half. What I recommend is for you to know yourself and just to have that, have it open-ended so that you can decide based on a place, based on a city, based on a country. For me, the longest I've stayed in one country was 3 months, but I've moved around within it. But I've also stayed in other countries for just a week or 10 days because I didn't find it so appealing. So it's very subjective, but the most important thing is keeping it open-ended.
Nice, thank you.
Right. When I started 3 years ago, I was traveling through Colombia for 1 month, and we switched places like every second night,
Wow.
which was crazy. And like, I thought, yeah, that's cool. Like I can do whatever I want and go wherever I want. So I just went and went on and on. And it was so exhausting. It was super exhausting. I didn't really feel like I saw anything from the country. And after that, it was really time for me to settle down. So I stayed for quite some time in Bali. But what I've also wanted to say about this traveling, if you travel through countries, like now when I go to another country than Bali or Germany, I try to stay longer. I try to stay at least for a week in a city, just so that I have enough time to also see the city and also work at the same time. And if you meet travelers while you're that's pretty annoying too, because they are always like, they want to do stuff and like ask you if you come along, and at some point sometimes you have to go, be in meetings. But I mean, at some point you just have to realize this is your job, that's what you have to do. So you sit down and do your job instead of going on climbing mountains or scuba diving or whatever. But yeah, I think it's also part of growing up, right? I mean, when I was younger, I had a lot of what you call FOMO, fear of missing out. And the older I got, the more I felt like it's fine to say no.
Okay, thank you. Edmund, do you want to add something? How is it for you?
Yeah, sure. That's really interesting to hear that, because yeah, I kind of feel the same. At the beginning, I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna make like, for example, 3 or 4 countries within like 6 months. But I quickly realized that I'm more into the slow travel concept. So actually moving every single time, like it's so stressful. Like I personally cannot like really handle it. And something really important is like really like the setup that I have. So I basically have 2 screens, but like one of them is like looks like it's an Asus Zen screen. So it's one of the 2 I can also share. It's really great. It's like a 16-inch, but it goes to your backpack, and it looks like kind of like an iPad. And so for me, like I hate just like moving my setups all the time. So at the beginning, I was also working from a cafe and like from co-working spaces, etc. And it was good. But now my answer can be like it's definitely going to be subjective and different here, because I'm traveling with a partner. So I have less this feeling of I think like I'm considered as like naturally social, so I like to talk to people and so on. But the thing is that I also have my friends that I know for years, I grew up with, that I'm in touch like pretty often. So at least like once or twice a week. And as I said, like with my partner, so like for lunch we eat always like together, sometimes also with friends and so on. But like now, if you were to meet people, I would say like meetups, like the app first. And going to meetups, usually you're gonna end up like meeting like-minded people. And now, like regarding the question whether they're staying like 3 days or like 2 months, I understand also like the opinion of the others, but I wouldn't personally like judge too quick, because like I had like great interaction with people that I actually met just once, and they were maybe like leaving the day after, whatever. So for me, like it's not really related to the quantity, but more to the quality. And that's why, like for example, when I'm in those meetups, I'll be like, just like, all right, let's meet up people, let's like find out like the life. Everybody has a story, so it's always interesting just to talk to people. And I know that if I'm out at that time, it means that I'm basically free during that time. And afterwards, like no matter like the person that I'm meeting, like if they want to meet up, I would just let them know like the schedule. So I'm personally working, for example, from 8 a.m. until like 6 or 7 p.m. and afterwards I'm free. So that's the thing. But now to jump on also the other thing, like one of my friends was also like digital nomads, like ended up many times questioning himself whether like it's something for him or not, because like he's less social, and since he's not working in an office, he doesn't have like this opportunity to talk to other colleagues and so on. So that's why, like, at the end of the day, like, you just got to know yourself, and the best way to do it is just by trying. So in my case, like when I went to Bali, for example, I stayed 4 months, and within 4 months, I moved just once. So basically, I stayed like 2 months in Toland's place, and then to another one. And this was for me like perfect. But moving every single week or something, personally, would have been like a nightmare, way too stressful. I know that I need like my workstation ready, know that, okay, like that's the place where I'll be working, and then like I can do whatever I want, whether workout and so on. So
I
yeah.
wonder how people actually get work done if they move a lot, right? Because you're gonna be jet lagged if you move from, I don't know, Asia to Europe and back, or to the US.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally.
you're just tired, and then you want to build, you want to set up a routine, right? You want to find a gym or a yoga spot, or if you surf, you want to find a surf spot, and that all takes time, right? Where's your next supermarket? Like, you basically like moving into a place, and then you're like setting your routine up. If you do that every month, for example, it must be quite exhausting. And I don't know if how you can have a full-time job or your own business when you move all the time. It's going to be very hard. So I personally like to stay at places for a couple months, and then I go on kind of holidays for 2 or 3 weeks. For example, in December, I went to Sri Lanka for a couple weeks, and I also worked from Sri Lanka. But just a couple weeks, and then it's kind of a special time. And I don't work that much, and then I go back to my place where I can really focus on work. So that's, for me, it's the best thing. So I can still go travel and see a lot, but like, yeah, as everyone said, I agree.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and that for me, like it's different. Like instead of taking actually like 3 weeks, I would personally like take, like I'd be working, for example, for 3 weeks, and I'll be taking like 3 days. Well, I'd be like, during those 3 days, it's really like just my time, not checking like the laptop, whatever. I'm literally like even leaving it at home. And during those 2 or 3 days, it's for me like the perfect amount of time, because like even after that, I'm literally missing working. So this is also like, but that's what's great. Like I love the fact that
I usually take the first week to just explore and see how the new country is, and then I find a good place to work. Like, because especially like in Sri Lanka, the Wi-Fi wasn't that great, so there were just places where you can actually work from. So we like traveled around for 5-6 days, I guess, and then we settled down for 2 weeks and just went surfing, work, and then back to Bali. Yeah, it's nice.
Wow. Sounds really exhausting to do that. I think the perception that many people have is that you guys are constantly traveling and seeing the entire world. But I think it's really underestimated how exhausting it can be to do that, and that you're actually also living at one place and that you're doing real work. So real good insights here. Okay.
Someone is talking about Adnan's fitness equipment in the back. Maybe you can, in the background.
I'm actually super happy to be back home just for that. That's what I was missing the most. But I will explain that later, actually, after in the section of self-discipline and self-motivation.
Perfect, because I want to move on in regards to the time. So the next one is really important for some people that are now forced working remotely. So what tips do you have for tools that you could use to work remotely, and what are you actually using? Ivan, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Again, this is definitely going to depend on your setup. It's going to depend on the nature of your business. The biggest thing that I found is definitely this program. If you haven't heard of it, it's called Slack. I believe Slack is one of the biggest inventions in managing cross-functional teams, and especially in different time zones. We used to use it all the time. I used it in multiple companies, and it's definitely one that I recommend. I haven't used WhatsApp for business. I know other people who have. Other times it's just emails and then phone calls. So like we're using right now, it's Zoom, it's Google Meet, it's whatever gets the job done. But it definitely depends on the nature of your business. But I would start with Slack.
Okay, that's for communication. Do you use other tools as well? I mean, especially for meetings, or do you have some visual tool going on like we're using right now a concept board for, or don't you need that? No.
I use Evernote religiously on a daily basis, but that's mostly for personal use. I sometimes use it for work as well, just to track progress or track certain thoughts. But again, it definitely depends on the nature of your business. What kind of tools do you need? So I personally do not need a lot for communication and sending files, and anything other visual like Slack is more than enough for me and what I do. But I do use Evernote as well. I would like to add that because I'm not much more than that.
Oh, thanks. What about you girls?
So we use Microsoft Teams in our office. So it's just like Microsoft Teams is a platform where you have like different channels and groups. So for all of our clients, we would have a different team, it's called. So you can, it's like a little bit like a virtual office where you could like send information to just like, you can add different team members to those teams, and then we would write like an end of day report, what we've actually done or what's the current status of the project. And then it's also implemented all of the office programs like Word, Excel, whatever. So you can just add spreadsheets and all of that stuff. And it's also cool, like, I mean, it's similar to Slack, right? You would say, good morning, how is everybody today, who's in the office today, blah, whatever. It has video functions. We do video chats via Microsoft Teams, and we also use Outlook and stuff. So that's all kind of implemented, which makes it easy to communicate and to share informations for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Tolan?
Yeah, communication-wise, it always depends on the client, what they use. Obviously, Slack a lot. Then sometimes it's Skype, sometimes it's Circuit with with you guys, and Google Hangouts, whatever it is. I do anything. And then I design in Sketch, and Sketch has there's also Abstract, where you can upload all the designs into the cloud, and everyone who joins the team can decide on joining the project and download the designs and the files from Sketch. So, and it's also great because it has some versioning, and you can create your own branch and work in that. And then obviously I also work with Concept Board to talk about designs. We discuss designs on that. I just put all my files up there. The product owner or whoever wants to have a look at it, looks at it and can put a comment on it, maybe change some stuff here, change some stuff there. And yeah, as I said, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I get a lot of comments, and then I can start working on that.
Great, thanks, Tolan. Annan, what are you using? Sorry.
What I'm mainly using, like, there is one tool that I would like it's one of the best thing I've ever found lately. Like, it's been like a couple months now. It's called Notion. I don't know if anyone heard about it. So basically it's a bit like they call themselves as a collab app, and it's a software you can download, like whether on Mac, iOS, or on Windows, or even like Android, like on your phone, whatever. And this basically, it allows you to do everything, like literally everything. So the first thing is like you keep track. So you can create like database inside of it, and you can also like create, for example, any of your articles if you want to design your website or whatever. So in terms of content, exactly like Jason says, so it's also, yeah, like Evernote. But here, what's great is mainly like regarding the database. So you can cross different database, and for example, there is a lot of YouTubers using that, and it's a great even like just to share. There is also, it's kind of similar also to Trolley, but it's way more extensive in terms of you can make way more on that. I personally use only that to keep like literally track of everything, whether it's a habit, whether it's like the bullet journal, whether because like yeah, when I want to plan, for example, and when I'm talking about planning, this is also something really important to talk about. Whether like on the daily basis, like your monthly goals, your annual one, where do you want to be like 5 years from now, and so on. And for that, Notion is by far like really the best that I found. So I definitely will recommend like anyone to just like yeah, search for Notion on YouTube. You'll have like really great people like explaining them, and it's not like very intuitive at the beginning, but like you will have fun using it because like it's really 100% customizable, and that's what makes it like really great about it. Like another tool that I use pretty often is also like the Pomodoro Technique. So you know, like the that's basically like you work during 20 minutes and then you have like a break of 5 minutes. If you guys have like any issue in terms of focus, if it's like kind of difficult for you, like just to sit on a chair and be like, okay, during like 1 hour or two, I have to do that and only that without any distraction, Pomodoro can be like a really good like technique. So you have like the app also a bit everywhere, and you can set your own time. The goal is just to start with 20 minutes if you're really struggling, let's say, but then you can like just extend this time and going to like 25, 30, up to like to an hour and so on. So this is also really good. And like just the traditional to-do list. So just like make your to-do list like the night before, so that you can just see it right like the day after when you're starting your day, that it's not like a complete mess. Where should I start and so on, and put them like they said, like eat the frog first. So organized by order of priority. What's like really the most important, do it first, so that you also feel like motivated to keep on moving on the other tasks that you have during the day. So yeah, that's it.
Perfect. That's actually already a good shift for to our next topic, which is the self-discipline and self-motivation. So I would continue with that because you were already talking about keeping focus, being productive, and getting work done. And it's really interesting to see how are you guys actually making sure that this is working out. I mean, you were already mentioning about this, and Josephine was talking before about that she had, and Tolan as well, that they had to prove themselves that they're working and that they're being even more productive in this environment, in this setting. So maybe you can share some helpful tips and tricks that will maybe help all of us in getting more productive in their daily work.
So, I mean, here in Bali, sometimes I have meetings until midnight. When I was in Australia, the meetings went until like 3 in the morning. And it's tiring and it's annoying. You have to stay up really late. Like Australia is really, really far from Europe. But in the end, you just have to remind yourself what you're doing it for. Like you just have to remind yourself. You can also wake up late in the morning, like late at noon, and have a lot of free time then, and just embrace what you have. So that is, I think that is the most motivating for me.
For me, it's I do agree. I also remind myself sometimes, okay, why am I doing this? Like, yeah, if you have a purpose, that's important. But what I like to do is just like keeping myself super busy. Like I do like to have a super busy schedule. Like my calendar is usually like booked, like every 30 minutes or every hour there will be something to do or another appointment, like which is important to me. I speak with a lot of people, which helps. I'm not just sitting coding or something. I couldn't imagine to do that. I mean, I'm an extrovert, like Adnan said, so that would be not my job, but I call a lot, which helps because I'm constantly interacting. So I try to do just like some admin work during the daytime, and then I do have my calls in the evening, which helps. Would I do it the other way around, it would be definitely harder, like to stay awake at night and just sitting here, I don't know, filling an Excel spreadsheet or whatever. So in this case, the time difference helps. But yeah, if I'm not busy and if I'm kind of bored, okay, but I just wouldn't work, right? So just keeping myself busy, and then if you have something to do, then just time is flying. I feel it's not a big deal. I mean, sometimes you have days where you're super tired, but you also have them in the office. So, and then you just have a lot of coffee or go for a quick walk or whatever keeps you awake. Maybe take a nap for a couple of minutes. Nobody will notice. If you just have a nap for 20 minutes and then go back to work, I sometimes do that. Yeah.
Okay, how about you, Adnan?
All right, let's unmute myself first. So what I do, like as I said, like first I keep track of everything. Just to that's where I started. I remember like having like this kind of vision board where I basically like set my goals for the year and so on, and having like just like this in front of me and reminding me this like helped me a lot, like to reach like this. This is like the first step basically. Like now what I do, and that helps me a lot, basically is waking up early, like really early, like whether 6 and even better like at 5, because like the first hours are just for myself, and this is like definitely something that helped a lot. So what I usually do is having like this morning routine when I'm basically just like drinking water, stretching a bit, and then go out for a workout. I personally box, so I've been boxing for 7 years, and this is great. So like in terms of the adrenaline it creates, I mean, like when you're sparring or whatever, and having this at very early in the morning helped me really a lot, like to be first like awake and keep on like being motivated and being like even keep on being like hungry, you know, like keep on hustling. And then like a great like really treating myself with a really good and trying healthy breakfast. So that's also something that helped me. Like also to keep on being motivated. You can whether like watch those YouTube videos, you know, like yeah, how to reach your goals and all these kind of things, you know, and it's usually like it works on the moment, you know. But like what's really like more difficult is like when you're during like you're down, when you're not feeling like doing the job and so on. So how do you do it? And for that, like for me the best was just like just surrounding yourself by the whether like-minded people, but not only that, it's mainly like the experts in the area that you're working in. And once again, just like having really friends that are lifting you up, that are always like supportive and so on. And when you have like any down, just like pass a call, they will just like remind you the things that you usually remind to the others, you know. And this also like helping. And once again, we come back to it again, the bullet journal, because this is great. Like when you have like any down, just go through it and go like many at the beginning. Where did you start and where you are now? This will give you like another feeling of motivation. But instead of having like the external one, it's like from like yourself, like because you saw that the results of the effort and the work that you have been putting in for the last let's say few months or few years. And yeah, that's like mainly my my tools or hacks for self motivation and discipline.
Wow, amazing. We have so many things. Can you add something to that, Ivan?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it short because we're running short on time.
Yes.
I will add 3 things that I think are important. First is eliminating distractions. That's how you stay disciplined. Like turn off your phone, airplane mode, borderline. Turn off your Instagram notifications. Turn off your WhatsApp notifications. If you haven't heard of this app, if you really have a tough time with doing all of that, it's called Freedom. Download Freedom, and you can basically program Freedom to limit your use of other applications or websites. So you can limit your YouTube use, you can limit your Instagram use, etc., etc. You can purchase that, I think, for $130 lifetime membership. So it's not a big deal if you really have a tough time. The second thing is eliminating waste. Once you eliminate distractions and you're no longer on Instagram scrolling, then you start to gaze out the window too much and you start to look at a wall too much and stuff like that. That's generally wasting your time. you stay more disciplined by being aware that your breaks are too long and they don't have to be. And the third thing is finding a way to maintain a simple routine regardless of your movement. So even though I was traveling and moving around for basically every week or every other week, I heard you guys say that that doesn't work for you. It definitely worked for me because I was able to maintain my routine while I was traveling. And the simple, I'm not going to get into it, but the simple parts of that routine were reading a book every morning and working out every morning. And just like you, Adnan, like when you wake up early in the morning and you go for a run or you go work out, you have to take great pleasure from knowing that nobody's doing what you're doing right now. And that is how you motivate yourself, and because very few people are doing that. And then when you already have that mental edge and that mental advantage before other people woke up, you can start work easily because you already done something productive. So that's how you stay disciplined and motivated.
Wow, this sounds like you guys are really disciplined and motivated. I think every one of us that has to work from home now due to the circumstances can find some good inspiration in there. Thank you so much for this. As Ivan said, we're really short in time right now. We have one more thing to cover, which is pretty important. Communication and keeping contact. So I would ask you to be quick and short about this, but what I experienced recently is that I'm really missing office talk. So I feel like I'm missing out on some information that we would usually talk in the office kitchen or just like from chair to chair. So how do you usually cope with this? Like, do you feel like people have more information from your team if they're in the same room than you who are working remotely, or is this not the case for you?
So first thing, because I have an office, right? I feel like I don't miss out on that office talking. It saves me a lot of time that I'm not involved in all that like gossip talking because in my team before, right, there's just talking about so many stuff, and I'm sometimes happy that I don't have to hear it or listen to it all the time, because I feel like it's just wasting my time sometimes, and I'm way more focused if I'm not involved in all that gossip talking first. In terms of productive communication, we do use the tools we talked about, which helps a lot. I think it's important to communicate a lot, especially when you work remotely. Like I speak with my clients usually once a week in a weekly meeting. Sometimes we have a lot of topics, sometimes we don't, but we always catch up once a week. What's up? How are you doing? What's the status of the project? Which helps, and which also helps to build a relationship. And I also do that with my team. We have a feedback talk once a week. It's not feedback every week, but there's always something to talk about. And it doesn't have to be long. It's usually like maximum half an hour. But yeah, it helps a lot. And I prefer to do video chat because it's a video call, because it's very interactive. You can actually see each other, and yeah, you get the emotions or what's going on. And for me, it works perfectly out. It works very good.
Okay, how do the others feel about that?
Personally, when I was working as a contractor, usually I had Slack, and like no matter like the industry you're within, like we're always like sharing, for example, relevant articles. We had these like weekly meetings and so on. And I totally agree with Josephine about it. Is like actually you're not like, you don't have to deal with this small talk anymore, or these gossips or whatever, or these like talks when you're like in front of the machine, like basically doing everything beside working. So actually it's quite the opposite. Having like tools such as like Slacks usually like emphasize like things pretty well. And but like I was definitely not I didn't have like any feeling in terms of FOMO because of that, because like once again, like we had like all the articles that everybody was sharing, and it was like the opposite. It was kind of like even like more productive. So people, when instead of like saying anything that it's not really like, it doesn't really matter, you know, they would rather than share like in really interesting articles, or sometimes just funny memes or whatever, you know. But like I definitely didn't feel like less productive by working remotely than being in the office.
Okay. You guys emphasize a lot that there's a lot of office gossip. Yes, I do agree to that. But there's also this thing that when you are working together in one room, you already feel close to the other, so you feel like a team. So do you feel like when working remotely and you're not physically there, that you're left out a bit, or not at all?
I don't feel that at all. And what's important, I think, is like you have to be very clear in your communication, like to have to communicate very clear what you want and what your goals are, because you don't have that option to just have a quick chat in the office like, oh, what did you mean by that, or how is that supposed to be done? So you just have to communicate very clearly, and then it works. I mean, of course, we have those chat programs where you can ask a quick question, but everyone has to be also in your team self-responsible and independent, and then it works. And I don't feel I'm not part of the team or anything. No.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, same here. Like, I mean, even when I was working in the office, and I loved it, like, yeah, most of the time, like I had the chance to work like with great companies and many like with great people surrounding me. But at the end of the day, I wasn't touching my colleagues neither. You know what I mean? So whether like it's a video call or like a DM, like a direct message, and once again, we still have like a really good time just with a video call. It's not just about like work, and nothing else. Obviously, we talk also about ourselves, how it's going like lately, and so on. And so yeah, like I personally like, and once again, you can always have like some get together, you know, like whether like it's once a year if it's sponsored by the company, or even like just like, yeah, let's say like a couple colleagues. That's what I do like also sometimes when I was working, is that we're just like meeting in one place and be like, okay, let's have like our kind of like own co-working space, like, so that we're all working for the same company. So this can also be another alternative.
I also like go to my office like twice a year for a week or two to catch up, and I think that's important, even if it's just once a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Roland, do you want to add something?
I do have some clients that have never seen me personally, that only saw me virtually. And what is important for me when I start a project, I mostly start with a video call so that they actually can see my face. They need to make a connection to you as a person and connect with you. And then, as Josie said, I also go back to Germany once a year. I stay there for 2 months, and you need to stick in their head. Like they need to remember you, that when in times that they need someone like you, that they think that you are the first one that they think of. That's for me for as a freelancer.
I can quickly add from the other side now. Tolan, when you came back to Germany for the first time when I was in the office, I was like, wow, this is Tolan. And I had a totally different impression of you. And I feel like after that, our collaboration went even better. So I feel like the personal component is not to be underestimated.
Yeah, like none of my clients ever really asked me to come to the office, but like I still do it once a year, just for my, mostly for myself, just to know that I did it, and they know about me.
Okay, Ivan, do you have something to add about communication or keeping in contact in general?
Yeah, not much to add, just a piece of advice to everybody who's working remotely. Once you're stuck working remotely for an extended period of time, you oftentimes forget that there's a person on the other end. We oftentimes forget that there's that human factor. And even more so when you're working with multiple nationalities across multiple time zones, there are a lot of cultural differences, and the way you write might easily be misinterpreted. So that human factor, that EQ over IQ is very important, regardless of whether you know your colleagues or your clients or partners or whoever in person or not. Just maintaining that notion of we are not avatars in Slack, we are not avatars on WhatsApp or whatever else, just to make sure that there's a person behind it. And that's pretty much it. No rocket science, just keeping in touch over any and all social media in the meantime is also a good idea.
Great, amazing. Okay, now we have 10 more minutes left. I'm really sorry that we have such a short time for the open forum only, but everyone who has questions, I would please ask you go on the board and just grab a sticky note and write your question down here. If you want to write a question to one specific person, just go ahead and take the colorful sticky notes. Wait, I'm gonna grab them in here. Otherwise, just grab any color that you like. Okay, there's one big question here.
I'm moderating someone.
I'm not.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, question here. How do you share your work current outcomes to your employers, bosses, key co-workers? I'm using Google Sheets currently, following one of my task forces. While it's not so handy when it comes to access right assignments, would love to have better platform to share. Does anyone have a tip for that? How you share your current outcomes?
Yeah, I can jump in there. It depends on the nature of the project. So if it's a design project, Tolan can probably speak to it. Like you either send images or something like that, not native files. If it's a writing project, maybe you can do Google Docs. So it definitely depends on what kind of project you're working on. But in my case, I used to work on a lot of micro projects where the turnarounds were 12 hours or 24 hours for basically overnight completion of certain design tasks or writing tasks. In that regard, we would share everything through email or through Slack. So if it was a design project, we would just send images. Once it gets approved, we would send over the native files as well. And for other projects, it would either be or Google Docs or Sheets like yourself. So definitely depends on the nature of the project, whereas the majority of them are far longer than 24 hours and 12 hours, but it's just common sense in that regard, like emails and Slack and whatever else works for you and the client.
Thank you. All right, next question that's also for you, Ivan. How do you lead differently as a digital nomad? You mentioned that at your peak you had 10 team members, right?
Yeah, teams. Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a great question. It's for me, I like it. For me, that's why I got into project management. That's why I see it as a puzzle. So the way my job worked is a client comes in, they send over project requirements, and then they forget about it. And I'm the only point of contact between our company and them. And then it's up to me to create a team around that specific project. All right. So I know that this designer is good for that requirement. I know that this writer is good for that requirement. And then it's up to me to set up the budget and to set up the quality control and everything. So usually the teams were assigned to a specific client that was constructed over time. And then those team members were able to follow the specific requirements of that client. And that's why it was easier to lead. Other than that, when it was urgent projects across multiple time zones, I would often get one of my teammates who is located in a different time zone to sort of co-lead that project. So that would definitely help. So for example, if I'm a manager, I'm located in Europe, get another manager that's located in Australia. And then if the client is in US or something, they already have 24/7 coverage. So I don't know if that answers the question. It's kind of a broad one. We can go into more details, but not a lot of time. So hopefully that that answers it at least a little bit.
Perfect, thank you. Let's move to another question that is for everyone. According to the color, where do you find information about the places you want to visit? Visit places that are nomad friendly.
Oh, there's this amazing website, nomadlist.com, where you can compare different nomad cities in terms of cost of living, Wi-Fi connection, restaurants, just basically everything. Very helpful. And then you just talk to people, right? They tell you a lot, places they've been to, places they would recommend. That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, and just one thing also regarding that, is that once you found a place, don't end up watching too many YouTube videos about the place. Literally, like, just go for yourself, and you will quickly realize that the opinion of one person is definitely not the same to the other one. So just like go and try for yourself. And some place can be like really awful for some person, and others, like for example, one of my friend came to Canggu, and like literally after 2 weeks he just left. He was planning to stay there like 1 or 2 months. And in my case, I just loved Canggu like really a lot. Even, and on the other hand, he also loved Chiang Mai. So Chiang Mai is also another hub of for digital nomads. Canggu as well. So it's like two completely different places. I personally love both, but in his case, for example, Canggu, it was like it was a no-go. So yeah, like you shouldn't like hesitate just to go for yourself and try it out.
Okay, thanks. We have a related question to that. Maybe Josie, you can jump into that and answer and say what you just wanted to add as well. So how do you choose places where you go, and what are the 3 most important factors? But you can first finish the sentence that you just started. Sorry.
Oh, I just checked Nomad list quickly because I was curious. So just sharing the 3, like number 1 of the Nomad places at the moment is Koh Phangan in Thailand. Number 2 is Lisbon, Portugal, and number 3 is Canggu, Bali. Just if someone is curious.
Okay.
Just checking. Yeah, it's a great website. How do you choose a place?
Or someone else wants to?
Yeah. I always go where I always dreamed of. Like last year I went to South Africa, this year I went to Australia. You just have the freedom to go wherever you want and stay as long as you want. And yeah, that's it.
In my case, it's mainly like the people that I know who have been like traveling around, and like they tell me like, okay, you should definitely have a look at this place or the other one. And then I'm making like a quick research, but like usually like how I see myself for the next couple of years is probably going to be like Bali, south of Spain, Tunisia, and in between, like probably going to one country or the other one. And definitely one of them is like I want to definitely go to any Latin American countries. Like many, if you speak Spanish, it's like definitely easier. But yeah, that's how I usually end up like finding a place.
That's what I wanted to say. If you work with Europe, I cannot really see myself going to westwards. So for me, it's easier going eastwards because of the time zones.
Okay, cool. So we have one question here. Hello, everyone. I wanted to ask you all about the stage of your professional experience once you started digital nomading. I am wondering, either it wouldn't be a risk to start while still being a young professional.
Start as early as possible, please. Trust me. Trust me. Like that's 100%. The professional experience really isn't that relevant, if you ask me. It's more about self-awareness. And if anybody who you're trying to get employed by, if they're going to look at your CV and they're going to find it sort of alarming that you didn't work at a certain area for an extended period of time, or that you quit after a couple of months, or that you have this hole in your CV because you were traveling for an extended period of time, and if they take that as an issue, you really don't want to work for them. So people often build their CVs too much and forget to build their lives. So go build your life. It's not really an issue. If you're a young professional, it's actually the best time to start.
That's a wonderful quote. I would love to hang this somewhere. Thank you, Ivan.
It's really good. Like one advice that I usually give to any person who asks me like how to kind of work like remotely or for yourself, I usually say like all you need is like 15,000 euro. 15,000 euro, you go like for a full year in Bali. So basically you like with just 1,000 euro per month, and probably like even less when you're alone, you basically have like a decent place. You won't have to cook during like 3 times a day. So basically you just go out, you eat, you're not like wasting your time cooking and so on, or washing the dishes. And then like spend all the rest of the time just taking like all the relevant course that you wanted. So for example, I took like one online courses about social media, like digital marketing. Like I studied like for 3 or 5 years marketing. And what I learned within like maybe 3 to 6 months with just like online courses were like way more relevant and way more practical than anything that I learned through university. So what I personally like will recommend is like going to such a place where like the cost of life is really low, and just invest on yourself in terms of knowledge and try to be like practical. So everything you learn, you like put it in practice, and then don't like hesitate to kind of like work for free and then charge. So just like many at the beginning, if you didn't have like any portfolio or nothing, so you can think about like your own network, and we all have a huge one. Like we all have friends who have other friends, and so on. So you can already like start there, and then like you have like a lot of other platform where you can just like find like some gigs, like Fiverr, Upwork, and so on. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. We have one more question that just came up here. I would make it the last official one before we close this session. So as you worked at the European Commission, Adnan, this for you, what do you think, to which extent is a job in politics compatible with digital nomading?
That's a really great question. The thing is that when I was at the European Commission, I was mainly working in the logistics department. So I wasn't really involved in any politics party or whatsoever. So what I did actually in my case, when I was working I was working in client support and logistics. And there, like, I was leading also like a small team of people where I could also do it remotely. But so it depends definitely, because like the European Commission has like probably like hundreds, if not like thousands of vacancies and positions. So you're not specifically just working as a like in politics. There are like a lot of things. You can also just specialize yourself, for example, in the marketing there for the communication department.
Okay. Did this answer the question?
I hope so, yeah. Sorry.
I think so, yeah. Okay. I think we have covered all of the questions now, hopefully, as for now. Then I would like to thank you guys so much. You see how much came up today when looking on my screen, also when looking on the concept board. There's a lot of information that can be really helpful, especially in this time where many of us have to work remotely. Also for those who plan to go traveling after this entire period, or try to make their dream come true of being a digital nomad. Thank you guys so much for being with us here today. It was so insightful and super valuable. Thanks a lot. And I would officially close this session now. If there's some questions still coming up, I think we will stay maybe 10 more minutes in that call. But for everyone else, it's officially closed, and thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot for inviting and hosting. I really enjoyed it.
Same here.
Thanks again for having us. And if I can just add, for anybody who didn't get to squeeze in their questions, or for anything that we didn't answer all the way, feel free to reach out via social media, LinkedIn, emails, or whatever. I already posted mine in the chat over there. Simone, maybe you can share like with the people who were attending as well if they need it. And yeah, happy to connect with anybody and help out further if we can.
Perfect. We can also add this to the board so everyone can just come back and go to your.
That'd be great.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
thanks very much for everything.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so let's see if someone else is adding a question. Otherwise, we can also finish soon. Or if you have any questions, you can also put it in the group chat so we can try to quickly answer it there. Doesn't look like no one is typing.
Yeah, there's actually a question for me. How long do you all plan on keeping this kind of lifestyle? Or when do you plan on settling down? And if so, where would your preferred place be?
That's a good question.
How old are you guys?
Yeah,
as long as possible.
I also like ask myself like this question pretty often. And now that I moved like whether Australia, Africa, Europe, and so on, I quickly realized that actually if I were to settle down somewhere, it will probably be like the south of Spain, just for the quality of life and the fact that it's pretty close of everything.
Mhm.
But like, when will I be settled down? Like probably when when we have kids. Definitely not before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I will settle down as soon as I have found my place. And it really also depends on the partner, right? As Edwin said, if you have a partner, it's not only your decision, or sure, if you would have children, or that would be probably a big reason to settle down.
Do you have any specific area where you would like to settle down approximately?
I'm not sure yet, but I would probably settle down in Europe as well, since it's closer to my home. It's just easier. It's also easier because of the time zones, and it's closer to my family and friends at home. Yeah, but I'm probably somewhere close to the beach. So maybe Portugal. Not sure.
Nice. Tolan, what about you?
I don't really see myself settling down. I don't know. When I was young, I asked myself that question a lot. Like, one day I need to find that place where where I want to stay, where I want to be. And at some point, I just kind of lost that question. It was just not in my head anymore. And I was never really good in planning, like all this, I don't know, scheduling time, calendars. That's just not my thing. So no, there is no end for it. I don't know. I'm just here as long as I'm happy, and when I'm not happy anymore, I'm leaving and going to the next place. And
That's
I don't know.
I mean, it shows that you really love what you're doing, that you chose the right path. So that's
Yeah.
What about you, Ivan?
Yeah, I 100% agree with the last sentence that Tolan said. I think it's all about happiness. And as I discussed earlier during one topic, I think it's important to keep it open-ended. So I don't really put a date on it when I'm going to settle down. I'm going to settle down when I feel like it. And if I don't feel like it, I'll just keep on going like this forever. As far as the location, thus far, I'm pretty much in love with Latin America. I'm in love with California as well. So if all of y'all saw Harry Potter the movies or read the books, you know how Voldemort splits his soul into 7 pieces. That's pretty much what I've been doing while I've been traveling. There's a piece of me in a bunch of locations where I've been, and I can see that I can partially settle down there eventually. But again, I'm also curious about exploring more because I'm only getting started. So that's we'll see down the line. And also, I just want to follow up. I see there's a question here for me in the chat.
Perfect.
About
Thanks.
the visas. Mina, it really depends on what kind of passport you have. If I have a Serbian passport, if you two have a Serbian passport, then it's really not going to be that complicated because for the majority of the South American countries, we really don't need visas. For those that we do, if you have a tourist US visa, you can get into them with the US tourist visa as well. And how you can sort of be on top of what's going on, you can visit our website for Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then you can check out the countries that you need the visas for.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question in the chat from Wolfgang. Hi, Wolfgang. So he asks, what do you think about the health system in your countries, like just today with Corona?
Great, thanks for all the answers.
Yeah,
So
that's a tough one.
it
That's
is.
a tough
Jump
one.
in over here because over here we have curfew. I think we started early and in time with preventive measures. Nobody's allowed to leave between 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. And people who are endangered, sort of, that are 65 years plus, are not allowed to leave after 10 a.m. So for them, it's pretty much locked down all the way. It is about flattening the curve right now. It is about not overwhelming the healthcare system. While these measures are extreme, I do support them just because we really do not have that many beds per person per inhabitant and all that. So everybody's trying to do their part and just stay indoors as much as possible. Only pharmacies are open half a day, and only supermarkets are open half a day. Public transportation has been shut down. Schools and universities have been shut down. Bars and restaurants. So it's pretty much indoors, 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 and hopefully we can recover sooner than later. So.
Well, here, Bali, before the crisis, there is a hospital that is Western, that is an Australian hospital, where you get probably the same, how do you call that? Treatment as back in Germany. Now with this situation, it is dangerous. It is, I think it is about 2 beds for like 1,000 people. So yeah, just stay healthy, try to distance yourself from strangers, and yeah, that's all you can do. I'm really hoping for that rumor to be true, that the virus doesn't spread that much in more tropical climates. That is the biggest hope that I have here. And I don't know, there's nothing else I can do.
We hope the best.
Regarding the healthcare system in Australia, I can say, so my health insurance, which is called not health insurance, my travel health insurance, which is called Safety Wings. It's a Nomad insurance from the US. So they stopped covering for corona treatment as soon as we reached warning level 3. So that was a couple of days ago. So I was a little bit concerned about that. But I can say Australia, especially the state I'm living in right now, New South Wales, covers for every corona treatment for everyone. Just a public healthcare system, which is pretty great. So I calmed down a bit. So that's all I can say about Australia now. I've just been here for like 2.5 weeks, so I cannot say much, but I'm pretty lucky about that because people are not afraid to go to the hospitals and to get tested if they feel sick, because if they would need to worry about money or if they can cover the expenses, then they probably wouldn't go and would just spread the virus. So I think that was a very wise decision.
Okay. Anything you would like to add, Adnan?
No, like it's pretty much the same than what Ivan said. So it's also like
this situation.
Excuse me?
Are you happy to be back in Belgium with this situation?
Comparing to Bali, I have no idea because I never had to face such a thing in Bali in the past. So I don't know how it will end up there. The thing is that there was no lockdown when I was there. So people were still going out and we did the same also. So we're still out, going to restaurants normally, but you didn't see it how it is here, for example, in Belgium, in France, and so on. But here now, we moved here already for a week ago, and yeah, the hospitals, they're pretty crowded, but it didn't reach a very high peak comparing to Spain or France, for example. So if I were I'm also with Safety Wings, and also with Allianz, thanks to N26 banking. But as Josephine said, they're not covering for such an issue, obviously. So yeah, now luckily we also have the public system. So if we have any issue, we can always go, and there are plenty of hospitals, and it didn't seem to be super crowded at the moment. People are taking things really seriously here. So you almost see, I literally see no one in the street anytime. And even if they were to go out, and I'm also living not in a big city, I'm kind of in the countryside. So yeah, people have usually a garden and so on. So if they have to go out, they will just go out, have a walk all around and come back.
But if you can choose, would you rather be here in this situation or be over there in Europe?
For me, it's not really the location here that really matter. It's mainly where your beloved one are. So if my parents, for example, were in Tunisia, I would rather like be in Tunisia than in Belgium. And like since my parents like now are in Belgium, so like yeah, I'm pretty happy to be here, because if anything happened, whatever, I don't have this stress to be like, oh, I have like to take a plane when everything like shut down. And it was already like a struggle 1 week ago to come from Bali to Belgium. So and like, don't get me wrong, I didn't even like we didn't even buy like the flight tickets like because of coronavirus. We just like bought our flying ticket already like 3 months ago, because we plan to come back to Europe to visit family after a year and a half. And yeah, so for me what really matters, like depending like where your family and your beloved one are, and in my case like maybe like the parents. So if they were like in Bali, I would have been like more than happy to stay in Bali, this for sure.
Nice. Okay, thank you. I will take this as the last word for today and officially close this session now. Thank you everyone again for your participation, for all of these amazing questions and especially the answers. And yeah, thank you very much. Hope to see you in some other webinar as well.
Thanks again for the invite. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Stay
Take care,
safe.
guys.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Take
Yeah.
care. Bye-bye.